This is Agatha Brewer, and you're listening to the Intentional Solopreneur podcast, the show about how to launch and grow a successful service-based business. In each episode, I show you how to build a business on purpose, one that lights you up, keeps you inspired, and helps you make a bigger impact on the world. I share both marketing strategy and my best mindset tips to help you get the clarity and confidence you need to succeed as a new business owner. Hi everyone, this is Agatha Brewer and you're listening to the Intentional Solopreneur. Today I'm so excited to be joined by Hannah McCormick and Nicole Hiller of Showing Up Solo. I'll read a quick intro on Hannah and Nicole and then we'll get started. After spending way too many calls with clients who were feeling intimidated or just plain overwhelmed by online marketing, we thought there's got to be a better way. We've both had to learn how to market our businesses using social and email marketing, and we've put in a lot of time, energy, and money to get to where we are now. Lucky for us, our business is marketing, and investment on that scale makes sense for us. But if you're not planning to sell marketing services, your options are usually outsource your marketing or figure it out yourself. And that's why we created Showing Up Solo. We want to provide a free resource for fellow solopreneurs to learn the ins and outs of online marketing in one place. So we've created the Showing Up Solo series and also the Showing Up Solo membership. Welcome, Hannah and Nicole.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank
you. So in this episode, I thought we would talk a little bit about content creation and also how to show up authentically in your business. So first of all, I'd love to hear a little bit about how Showing Up Solo started and why you decided to work together.
I'll go first, Nicole. My business is a pandemic baby, and I started off as a virtual assistant and had to figure out how to build a client list from ground zero, and love learning. So I started absorbing as much content and information as I could about marketing and social media management. And then my business sort of pivoted towards social media marketing. And of course, people who are in the online marketing world will know that in 2021, Instagram really started pushing video content, not a medium I was particularly comfortable with to start off with, but it was necessary if you wanted to reach and grow an audience. So I started challenging myself to do lives every week. And I started inviting Nicole, who had been a collaborator for a while. And we really started talking about whether we should do a course or membership, or what to do to help basically the people we kept meeting over and over again with the same problems we had. And I can't remember if it was you or me who suggested it, but we decided if we're going to be doing lives, we should put that video content to use elsewhere. And if we were going to be doing video content, we should do a podcast. And that's really what kind of gave birth to our series. Right, Nicole?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was perfectly described pretty much. One little thing I want to add is just that you and I were kind of having conversations about the experiences of our clients and the struggles that they were having. And we really found ourselves kind of coaching them, but guiding them in how to show up authentically and really not even just supporting them, but supporting each other. And we felt that there was so much power in having those conversations with ourselves and with our clients that we wanted to, extend that to other people.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, that was the birth of Showing Up Solo.
I think that's totally right. We were having the same conversations over and over again. And they were the conversations we'd had with ourselves at the beginning.
Yeah.
And we just kind of wished that there was can we just help people avoid that phase altogether and just skip to a place of confidence when it comes to your marketing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can totally relate because, I'm a business coach and I have a marketing background. So even with the marketing background that I have, I've still had like many struggles as I've launched my business. And I've had to like relearn how to market as a service-based business versus the marketing that I know, like that I breathe, live and breathe, from everything that I learned in the corporate world and everything I know about digital marketing. But it was just like it was like a different beast. It was B2B marketing and not the type of marketing that I do now, and the type of marketing that I help clients figure out for themselves. So, and a lot of the people that I work with like also are very new and they don't have a marketing background, so like trying to have them understand what I'm even talking about, I can't
Hmm.
use the same terms that I know. So it's interesting that you have the similar experience. So I wanted to talk a little bit about those things that you kind of wished you knew when you were new solopreneurs or new business owners in general. And as you look back on the entrepreneurial journey that you have, like what are those key things that you want newer solopreneurs to know about marketing their businesses online?
Well, I'm going to answer this one first, Hannah, if you don't mind. But a big one for me, I would say, is that you're not going to know everything, and that is okay. Um, it's okay to take those chances of putting yourself out there and learning along the way. Those are huge, like learning steps towards your business, but also you as an entrepreneur. That people don't look at you and think, "Oh my God, look at this idiot. They don't know what they're doing." People probably look at you and think, "Oh my goodness, they know so much. I wish I knew as much as them." So the person who's the hardest is yourself. So it's really trying to be gentle and also acknowledge the wealth of knowledge and experience you bring to the table.
Yeah, and I would love to add to that I think two really big things that I learned at the start when it came to marketing. One is quality over quantity. That goes for every aspect, whether it's like creating quality content over like a lot of content, but also in terms of leads. If you are too generic or um, open with what you're looking for from your marketing, you might get lots and lots of leads. And I had this situation at the beginning. I was getting lots of leads, but they were the wrong clients. And of course, at the beginning, you're hungry and you'll take everyone. And you
Mhm.
realize the hard way that those relationships don't always work out. Um, Now, Nicole and I are selective with who we work with. We know who we're going to succeed with when it comes to working together. And those clients, they stick with you. They tend to pay more too, um, because you have that really good connection. Like you have that trust sort of baked in. So um, it's better to have less leads that are your perfect, a million leads of people that may or may not work out. So that's one of the biggest takeaways for marketing is quality over quantity. And then the other thing is it takes time. I remember in my first year business, my severance pay had run out and I hadn't quite made enough clients yet. And I was worried I was going to make rent and I was freaked out. And I spent the entire month of October busy, like marketing, showing up every day, arranging interviews, going to networking events. And I still didn't get that many. I signed, I think, one client by the end of the month. But January, I suddenly had 4 new clients. So it didn't happen in October. It took a while. It takes a while for your efforts to like bear fruit, but it is completely worth it because if I hadn't made that big marketing push in October, I wouldn't have had the client roster I had in January. And I found that consistently. Push, if I like the marketing efforts, there's about a 3 month, 6 month kind of lag between the heavy marketing and the actual results. And that's, you just have to remember it's a long term game.
Yeah, everything you said totally resonates. Like for me, but also people that I work with, I think a lot of people have like just unrealistic expectations of how quickly they can be successful in business, and they don't realize how much time and effort it actually takes and how much marketing you have to do and how consistent you have to be, and things like so for example, this podcast, like we're recording it now but it won't release until X date, so like the effect of what you do doesn't happen until later on, and then a certain amount of people have to see it, you have to promote the episode, like that is all a whole process, and all the networking events you do, like yeah, you may get a lead or you may get a prospect, whatever you want to call it, from that event, but then you have to nurture them, and then you have to have a follow-up call, and like that takes time. And some people just have this expectation that, oh, I'm going to like work with a coach and they're going to figure it all out for me and I'm going to be like successful immediately. But like, especially in marketing, it's a long game. Like content is a long game, and it takes months, years, to figure it out, and to like understand your brand and what you talk about. So yeah, I totally agree. And then what you said about the comparison, like everybody deals with that, because that's one thing that I really like work on with clients is their mindset, because we are our most like critical critic, and we hear our voice in our own head, and those people that see us are like, oh my God, look at what amazing things she's doing, and we don't hear that voice that they hear unless they tell us, or unless they give us some feedback. So we really need to like constantly remind ourselves that I'm doing something amazing. I'm doing something new that I've never done before. And I just need to like be my own cheerleader. So everything you guys said just totally resonated. So I'm going to pivot a little bit to content, since that's what we're talking about. So I just love like all the content that you guys create. It's like super polished. It has a consistent look and feel. Like I can feel your brand. It's fun. It shows your personality. So how do you actually create a content strategy like that works for you and that's also sustainable in the long run?
Well, I'm kind of smirking here when you say how polished it looks, because it totally goes back to what Nicole was saying about that comparisonitis. And like what I feel about my content is different to how it looks on the outside. But I think Nicole, you'll agree with me that the key to having our work look so consistent and polished is simplicity, right? Mm-hmm. We have a formula that we follow, and it's designed around what makes sense for us as both mothers who have home-based businesses, like the realistic demands on our time and what we can do, but also like we have a pattern that we follow. We have consistent graphics that we use, and we have like a plan for the content, so we can just prepare so much in advance.
Yeah, I actually would say that a lot of marketers online, they say things and then, do they practice what they preach? And I feel like Showing Up Solo truly does practice what we preach. In showing up, in our authenticity, in our marketing, I feel like we're trying to be as simple, but also as consistent as we can, because it's like you said, we are mothers with a home-based business that we're trying to balance everything in so many ways. So, we understand that the more that we add on to our plate, the more that we could lose the brand image that we want, or, the marketing tone. So it's important to us to be authentic to ourselves, as parents, as business owners, as business partners, as everything. So
one of the key things that we do is we call it our full circle content approach, which is basically, and this is the new strategy that we implemented in January, so we could really test drive the strategy we're recommending to all our clients, which is where we create these YouTube and podcast episodes. And we live in different provinces, so to film something together, we actually have to one of us has to get on a plane. So we get together every sort of 6 months or so, and we'll film about 6 months worth of content. While we're at it, we'll also do a bunch of reels, because if you don't know, you can actually save those and post them whenever you want. Just remember to save them to your phone, not just your Instagram app. But we batch all this content, and then we can work on it separately to convert it into audiograms and captions and newsletter content and reels and etc. And we'll take those few intensive pieces of content or long form content and break it up into many, many smaller things. We do Pinterest pins, we do tweets. We're planning to convert a lot of the episodes into blog posts, which will then kind of be curated into pins and tweets and more social media
and emails.
Yeah. Exactly. So we are all about batching, but making your content go as far as it possibly can, because there's this misconception that people are like stalking us online, that they're like reading every single thing we put out there. They're not. You're not doing it to other people. You might get in the mood to binge someone's content every now and then, but you're rarely doing it to every single piece of content they put out there. So it doesn't matter if there's a bit of repetition. If it's a good message, if it's quality information, say it over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think because Hannah and I live so far apart from each other, that we really had to come up with a plan to work smarter, not harder. And that's kind of like our new motto right now, is work smarter, not harder. And that's why it's all about repurposing and making content go as far as we can, because we can't be in the same place to record all the time. So how can we make it work for us until we can again? So
yeah, and I think that's like something that newer entrepreneurs or people who don't have a marketing background like don't realize sometimes, because it's not that they're not creating content, it's just that they're not repurposing it. Or if they create a blog, they don't think about, oh, how can I turn this blog into a few social posts? Or how can I turn it into this? I already did all the work to research the topic, or I already know this topic because, that's my area of expertise. How can I turn that into a video? How can I create a reel? How can I take like those things don't come naturally to everybody, because this isn't what their area of expertise is somewhere different, whatever their service, that they're selling. And so they don't think about that. Or like I've coached some people and I'm like, well, what do you already have? Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, like what have you already created? And I even have to remind myself sometimes, because I've created a lot of content and I'm like, wait, like I shouldn't just try to create something new. I should just use what I already have. And maybe it's okay if I post about it more than once, like I'll post something like an Instagram post and then I'll create a reel, because you're right. Like nobody's going to be sitting there and like, oh my God, she posted about this 4 days ago. Like, it's terrible. Like, because people have to see things like 7 to 10 times before they really like, understand what the message you're trying to get across. So it's actually a good thing to be a little bit repetitive, and you'll think that it's repetitive, but they won't.
Yeah.
Even if they're stalking you, like it's just another reminder. Like there are, sometimes I'm like, oh, somebody's gonna be looking at all this, but you're right. Like it's in our head. It's not, nobody's really sitting there like stalking your Instagram unless they're like, specials.
Well, unless they're super fans, in which case they don't care.
Yeah, which is a good thing, which is wonderful, because that means they're going to be contacting you soon to work with you, so it's a good thing in that.
And I think you touched on something there as well, is, I've seen this a lot with people who have podcasts, for example. They publicize the episode when it first comes out and then they never mention it again. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing an episode where it's, say, like informational, educational, that content is usually relevant consistently. So remind people of those episodes, publish past episodes, promote them in your social media, even long past them being published, because if it's still relevant, you need to remind people it's there, because they might be new and they might not know that information.
Or they're at a different place in their journey, where maybe before it had no meaning, whereas now it actually provides a lot of value to what they need.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually good advice because, like, my podcast is relatively new and I've promoted it on social. I've sent a few emails about it, but yeah, why not like do a roundup of the most popular episodes or something like that. And I did that when I first started. Like, I waited a little bit and then I said, "Hey, check out these 4 different episodes," and that email actually got better click-through rates than other ones that I've sent in the past. So people are interested. It's just maybe they weren't interested like at first, and you reminded them and they're like, oh, maybe I should listen to that episode, so it is cool to
Yeah.
do that.
And I think it comes back to that, like people feel like they have to reinvent the wheel or come up with like some novel concept. But the truth is we forget that we're experts. We forget how much is just taken for granted for us. Nicole and I we used to do this all the time when we start to we get these questions like, what's a lead magnet? And we're like, well, what's a lead magnet is? And everyone, and we forget that we didn't know what they were when we started out. And so that information, you still need to give that to your clients before they can take the next step. You need to help people bridge that gap between like knowing what they need to know and like not knowing and then knowing. I sound like an episode of Friends right now, but they don't know that we know that.
Yeah, I mean, what I think you're saying is like you kind of have to educate your clients a little bit. If you're a certain type of service provider, but I think it kind of applies to all service providers because you have the expertise and the people that are working with you because you have the expertise and they don't. So, if they don't know what a call to action is or a CTA or a lead magnet or like that marketing terminology, then yeah, you're going to have to educate them a little bit before you're like, okay, let me help you create that lead magnet. Because otherwise they'll be like, what is a lead magnet? Like, what is the point of that?
Yeah, well, it was a conversation that we actually had recently with Courtney Miller of Miller Digital, where she was helping Hannah and I film some reels, and we were trying to do a lot of like kind of tips, like lingo tips, marketing tips, and she's like, you got to simplify that. Like they don't know what that is, and Hannah and I were like, it's so true. We in our minds we're so used to this same old kind of terminology, but for someone who doesn't live in this world or are new to it or trying to educate themselves, let's just like give them the tools and the understanding to help them get there. So, yeah.
And I think showing some of those things like really does help you be seen as an expert too, because I mean, you do know those things are so like obvious for you, as the service provider, but you're, sharing the knowledge and helping other people understand what these things mean. Like there's so many, I mean, MQL, ROI, like all these like CTR, CTOR, like there's tons of marketing acronyms that at first I was like, what does that mean? But, after working many years, like they're easy for me, but other people are like, what the heck is a click to open ratio? And then I explain it and they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I'm going to move on a little bit. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think something that a lot of newer entrepreneurs struggle with, and service-based businesses especially, is that we always feel like we have to be on, because we're actually the face of our business, especially if we're solopreneurs. And we think we have to like look perfect or just be perfect in order to show up online and also on social media. And I know you guys are both big on showing up authentically. So can you guys talk a little bit about how this plays out in your business and also in your clients' businesses?
Well, showing up authentically is like, I would say it's the heart and soul of our business, because we want to show people that you don't need to be perfect, to be a successful entrepreneur. And everybody has things in their life, and we want, Hannah and I, all the time we have our own kids and things come up, but we still show up, whether or not whatever that looks like. We want people to see that you can show up authentically, and people will still see you for the expert that you are. People still respect the wealth of knowledge and experience that you bring. It's not what you look like. It's not how you present yourself in your videos. It's the person that you are. That's what people connect with.
I also think part of showing up authentically is kind of unapologetically. We work with a lot of clients who are very, very nice. They are people who work with change makers. They want to make the world a better place. And sometimes that can be limiting when it comes to making their message, because they don't want to offend anyone or alienate anyone. But these clients would never work with a big oil company, or they'd never work with someone who is actively pursuing like environmental destruction or prejudice. Or like, there are 100% people they would not work with. And that needs to be made clear in their marketing. It's okay to say, I don't want to work with you. And that's also part of showing up authentically. And it kind of also leads into that. If people aren't okay with you being a parent who has kids popping in, or they're not okay with the way you look, because the fact is the way you look has zero to do with how well you do your job, then if they're not okay with the way you look, then you don't want to work with them. Like, why would you want to work with someone who had a problem with you, the person who is essentially, when you're a service provider, you're the product. So it's okay to repel those people. And that's also a really important part of showing up authentically. And I'm not saying like go in there and, spout a bunch of controversial opinions and stuff, like for the sake of stirring things up. But I just mean, if you really strongly believe in something, that should be front and center of your marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I totally agree with that, because I think a lot of people, when they're first starting out, they get scared because they think, oh, if I show this opinion publicly, then there's going to be a problem with that, or I'm going to repel clients. And it's actually okay to repel clients, because then the ideal clients will find you, because they know who you are and they connect with that, and they connect with you authentically. And so they find you, and those other people, like when you, going back to what you were saying about finding the right leads and not wasting your time with the wrong people. And I don't mean that, I'm not saying that people are bad, but I'm just saying, you have to be a little bit slightly controversial, or it doesn't have to be controversial, but you have to be who you are to attract the right people to you. And when you speak a certain way, or write copy in a certain way, or things like that, then those people will naturally be drawn to you. And then that makes it even stronger. And then the other thing is, like, I think they're afraid that they have to look so professional, and they have to be like so polished. And, especially women, I guess, mm-hmm. like we have been trained to believe that like we have to be perfect, at all times. And there is no such thing as perfection. And like, I was on a call the other day with somebody, and she's a business owner, and we were talking about a podcast, and she had her baby on her lap. And like, yeah, there were some like distractions and things like that. We weren't recording a podcast, but like somebody might kind of be like, well, that's weird, like, why does she have a baby on her lap? But I'm like, she's a mom. That's why she has a baby on her lap. So like, get over it, and she is, like you said, like, she's super knowledgeable about what she does, so it doesn't matter, and I think in this day and age, people have, we've been on Zoom so much in the last couple of years because of COVID, that people have, like, it's been normalized a little bit that people have lives outside of what they do for work, so anyway. I'm going on.
I think it's been so freeing too. I mean, I remember what I was like before, when I'm going to my corporate job. I would always have like perfect hair, perfect makeup, and like really chic. Like, I put a lot of effort into how I looked because I thought it represented me as professional. But I realized in COVID, when I didn't feel like putting on a wired bra or slapping on a full face of makeup for an hour-long conversation, that really it had no effect. And my clients didn't care. Like, I show up for sales calls now in whatever I'm wearing, whatever t-shirt I've got on, my hair pulled back in a pony, zero makeup. And because like, it really doesn't have any bearing on whether I can do my job or not. My work speaks for itself. And I think that was one of the big things for us, Nicole, wasn't like, we make a point of recording our bloopers and releasing them because and leaving them in, because we want our audience to know, we want people to know you you really don't have to do it perfectly to still come across professional and knowledgeable. Like, you can mess up.
And I think I've seen those bloopers, and I've seen I think it was like Po Buddy's Nerfect or something, like you switch the letters. And I thought that was like awesome. It just made me laugh, which is what you want to do with people. I mean, you don't want to be hilarious the whole time unless you're a comedian, but like if you're a business owner, people want to connect with you. And if they see something that's not 100% polished, it's actually proven that like people will connect with you more because they understand that like you're an expert, but you're also at their level. And like, if you're too perfect and you're too polished, like people are going to be afraid of you. Like, we react to celebrities who are super polished, and, if you were going to go meet Oprah, you'd be scared probably. But if you're going to meet somebody who's like slightly, at the same level as you, then you feel more comfortable, and therefore you want to work with them. Just, my opinion.
If you've noticed that trend, so we watch a lot of YouTube at my house, but there's a lot of commercials now that are legit commercials that are trying to pretend that they're user-generated content. Like they're trying to pretend that they're like an unboxing video or whatever. And it's like, nobody unboxes Tide Pods. Like they just don't. But that's the thing, is there's a reason that that commercials are trying to mimic user-generated promotional material, because it works, because it resonates with people, because it feels like a way more human connection than some glamorous, well made up professional actor or like spouting a script.
Yeah.
So do you guys have a tip for somebody who is like afraid of showing up on social or showing up in general in their business?
One tip that I found helped Hannah and I a lot, even though Hannah was like an expert in showing up on her own, doing it with someone else. Find a friend or a business bestie in the industry that you love having those conversations with, and interview them. Having a conversation like this feels more natural than showing up by yourself. So if that would be like one step to kind of easing yourself into it and building your confidence in being online, then, see if there's someone else that you could join in a 5-minute, reel or Instagram live.
Yeah, I like that. Like, I think that's why I'm drawn to podcasting so much, because I am a solopreneur myself. And so it's either me talking to myself and pretending that I'm talking to other people when I'm shooting a video, or it's something like this where I can actually have a conversation and I can laugh and have a two-way dialogue, which is way more fun. And I get to meet cool people and just like you guys. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Well, and that's the key thing, isn't it? Your marketing conversation is a one-on-one conversation. It really is. Like, you're speaking to that individual person who's sat there staring at their phone or their computer. You're not talking to a crowd. You're not standing on a stage giving the keynote speech. You're having an intimate conversation. And if you can remember that and just pretend like you're talking to someone who you feel extremely comfortable with, or like Nicole said, get someone you feel extremely comfortable with to have that conversation. You wouldn't believe how much content ideas I get from my mom, because when I talk to her about these things, she asks questions that I don't think to ask. And then in explaining it to her, it's almost like a dress rehearsal, because I explain to her, I'm like, oh, okay, this is something my audience needs to know. And I'm basically just reciting the conversation I had with my mother to the audience. And it feels just so much more warm and genuine, and it's a lot less scary when you feel like you're talking to a person.
Yeah.
So I know you guys specialize a lot in Instagram and also LinkedIn. So do you have any tips for my listeners who are just getting started with these platforms?
Hannah, go ahead.
Okay, just know who you want to talk to. That's the key, is know who you want to talk to and what you want to get out of that interaction. So have a clear goal. Having 100K Instagram followers, sure, cool, but are they people you actually are going to get results from? If you're going to put the effort in for marketing, to Like if your job is content creation, then yeah, you want followers because that's where you're going to get your return on investment. But if you're a service provider, really you just need like one person to say yes to move the needle of how much you're making. So know what you want to get out of it and know how to find them on those platforms, like on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I would one step further than that. I would say, pick one platform and stick with that. You don't need to be on all of them. It would be better to put all your marketing strategy into one platform and focus in on your ideal client there rather than, so many different platforms and you're struggling to keep up. At first you're gung ho and you feel motivated, but then you start to notice yourself like, getting tired and you're not consistent. And then it feels more laborsome than at the beginning. So pick one platform and stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because when I started my business, I was like, let me be all over the place. Let me be on every single channel that I can be. And then it was like, no, you can't do that. Even if you have like tools that will publish or like automatically publish stuff and you schedule things in advance and you do batch content, it doesn't matter. Like that's still too much for one person to physically manage unless you're at the place in your business where you can hire someone. Sure. Okay, fine. But if you're just getting started, there is no reason to be on that many platforms because none of them are going to be good. They're all going to be like kind of mediocre. So I had to make that decision. Like I was on YouTube in the beginning and I was like, nope, not working for me. I'm going to stick to podcasting and Instagram, and that is what I'm going to focus on. Yes, there may be some other things that I do on the side, but those are the two things I'm going to stick with. And that's what I tell my clients too, because they're like, how do I be on like everything, like all these people that I see out there? And I'm like, those people that you see out there are 10 years ahead of you. Those people you see out there have an entire team of people working to create that content. They are a content factory. You are not a content factory. You can be that eventually, but you got to start smaller than that and really master 2 platforms at the most, 1 even better, and just go from there. So, yeah.
Well, and that's the reason Nicole and I can be on so many platforms, because really at the core of it, our podcast and YouTube series started as an answer to Instagram's demand for video content. Because the problem with it, if you do like a live on Instagram, is it's on Instagram. I started by like converting them into blog posts and then embedding them on my blog, but it was a shame I couldn't put that video content elsewhere. So we really started with like, we need video content for Instagram. So we recorded video content. And then now that we had that video content, we had it for Instagram. But as we grew in comfort, we could repurpose it to LinkedIn. We could repurpose it to YouTube. And then we could scrape the audio and repurpose it as a podcast. And so that's the thing, is get comfortable, come up with a plan that works for you. Instagram's a platform where you want to be on more often, like 3 to 5 times a week. And it's very heavily video focused, whereas LinkedIn is one of those nicer ones where 1 to 2 times a week is plenty and it doesn't need to be video. So like pick the platform that makes sense for what you are able to create. And once you have that nailed, like Nicole was saying, then start to expand. Think about how you can take the work you're already doing and make it go further onto more platforms. So you're not creating brand new content for each platform. You're just making that content go further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we wrap up, this has been amazing, by the way. Are there any last words of wisdom that you want to share with the audience?
I would say, take take your journey step by step. Don't look at 5 years now. Like obviously we want to have goals and where we want to see our business, but take it day by day, take it month by month. And, the mistakes that you make along the way, really use them as like learning opportunities to where you are. Connect with other people, make relationships with other entrepreneurs. People aren't your competition. They actually want to help you along the way. That's been like the biggest thing for me.
Same here.
I totally agree. Like I'm always harping on about having goals, remembering what you want to get out of it, because it's very easy to get distracted by things like likes and shares and stuff, like think about what your end goal is. If your end goal is to have more clients, then that's what you should focus on. Like, what are you doing and how many clients are you getting out of it? And then like keep that in mind. It's not a popularity contest. And I think the other one is that nobody is thinking the things that you think they're thinking. Like nobody, if you think about yourself, you probably aren't sitting there judging people or like thinking all these things that you think people are thinking about yourself. So just remember that. It looks very different from the other side. And like you don't have to like look like a movie star to show up in your content and your marketing. You don't have to have $1 million commercial. Like you can just say who you are and what you do, and the right people, if you've got your message clear, will come to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So I'm going to put my 2 cents in there about what you just said about, like, it's called projecting. You're projecting your own thoughts, usually negative, onto what that other person is thinking, even though it's really what's in your head. So I just wanted to share that. That's what we call it in coaching, and also just, in psychology in general. So this has been super awesome. We're almost at 50 minutes, so I want to get a little bit more info from you. So where can people find out more about you guys and the work that you do?
Well, you can find us on Instagram. We're at Showing Up Solo. You can find our website at www.showingupsolo.com. We're also on LinkedIn. You can find us on Pinterest. You can download our freebie. You can get the link through our LinkedIn and our Instagram. And our YouTube series.
Yeah, we're showing up solo everywhere. And yeah, I'll just mention briefly what our lead magnet is. It is basically the roadmap to what Nicole and I have done for our marketing. So we don't keep it a secret. You just put in your email and you'll get access to this, which has a really nice infographic that walks you through taking a long form piece of content like a video, podcast, or blog and turning it into like 20 plus pieces. Plus we list all the tools that we use, because finding the right tools is a headache. So there's lots of trial and error and money wasted. So we actually just list all the tools that we personally use for our process. So that's a really great jumping off point if you're just getting started.
Yeah, I love that. I think that'll save people a lot of time. So I'll put all of those links in the show notes so that everybody can find them. But I think definitely if you're just getting started with content, go check out that lead magnet, and it'll be very much worth your time. So I just wanted to thank you both for being here. It's been awesome having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to The Intentional Solopreneur. I hope you're getting some good information and some inspiration to help you grow your business. If you like what you've heard and you want the support of a business coach, come on over to agathabrewer.com and schedule a free consultation with me. In this call, we'll talk about your goals for your business and see if it makes sense for us to work together. My one-on-one coaching program is specifically built to help new entrepreneurs like you launch and grow a successful business. This program will help you get clarity on what you want to build, create a strategic plan of action, and identify and release any mindset blocks that are standing in your way. Because building a business shouldn't be so hard. And with my support, you'll reach your goals way faster than if you try to do it all alone. So I invite you to give yourself the gift of personalized support so you can build your dream business that allows you to live the life you want and make a bigger impact on the world.